Hi, I'm former Buffalo Bills wide receiver Don Beebe, and you're listening to Nate and the Fellas on Circling the Wagons podcast, because nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. Go Bills.
Where else would you rather be than right here, right now?
Hey, hey, let's go Buffalo! Hey, hey, let's go Buffalo!
The Bills make me wanna shout!
Welcome to the Circling the Wagons podcast, a podcast discussing the Bills all year round with interviews, news, recaps, and insightful fan discussion. Most times. Here's your host and lifelong Bills fan, Nate.
I want to talk about the very real possibility that the Bills might not draft a wide receiver. You know, we kind of hinted at it last week, and now I'm thinking I feel like it's not necessarily going to happen.
You mean at all, or with their first pick?
With their first pick. So it's kind of time to start having that conversation seriously, because you sent that tweet about AD Mitchell, with the diabetes and stuff. And it's just the effort. And then there just seems enough red flags with these guys after Brian Thomas Jr., the fourth wide receiver, that. It just feels like they're not going to, if they don't get him, I don't think they're going to go for any of those guys after that. You know what I mean? It seems to be a pretty decent drop off.
I do. I mean, so obviously there's top three,
mm-hmm.
and we're not getting any of those. Brian Thomas is kind of that in between tier. So if they did a mid, if he drops to 24 or whatever, and they do a small trade up, that's great. The tricky thing is the next 5 or 6 guys. You could still take at 28. There could still be 6 or 7 receivers drafted in round 1, from 1 to 32.
There could be.
If you include Worthy, Mitchell, Leggett, or maybe not Leggett, maybe McConkey. But there's a bigger spacing.
Mm-hmm.
But the Bills don't take one of those guys, and they wait through round 2. Then all those guys are gone, and then they're waiting. They're looking at some other options. So I don't like. Yeah, I'm going back to where you originally said, where they could draft somebody else. But at the same time, if they have the same grade at a particular receiver that they do at another position, and it happens to be Xavier Leggett, that's okay if they take Leggett, even if it's 10 picks ahead of where he would have gone, because they're not going to get him 10 picks later, because they don't draft until pick 60. So that I'm okay with. But if they have a defensive end or tackle that's way up higher than Leggett, and they're at the same spot, the defensive end from UCLA, it's he looks really good. Let's maybe take him. I'd be okay with that too.
Mm-hmm. Man, the more I read about Xavier Leggett, the wide receiver out of South Carolina, the more it feels like he just fills a lot of needs for them. And the biggest knocks on him are just that he has 1 year of production. He's a little bit older. He's 23 years old. But he's got the 6'1", he's 220. He's got great ball skills after the catch. He's fast. He's a better version of Gabe Davis. It's good hands. It's man, this is what we wanted Gabe Davis to be. And he could actually literally come in and he'll have the starting role at that position, right? At the X receiver position. That's the one exception I would make, even though I've seen him as a second or third round prospect. It's you said, couldn't you see the Chiefs? What scares me is some players falling to the Chiefs. This scares me because I actually want him. But Xavier Worthy scares me. I don't necessarily want Xavier Worthy. But him going to the Chiefs feels like Tyreek Hill 2.0, there's a lot to like about Xavier Worthy. I don't think he's necessarily a good fit for the Bills.
I was poo-pooing him a few weeks ago, but you know what? I'd be okay if they got Worthy. They need an X and a Y.
With their first round pick though, or their second round pick?
First round pick.
I think it's what scares me is the hands issues, because if you're looking for, so if you're a wide receiver coming into the NFL and you have drop issues, I'm sure you can correct them, but they're always there. And with Josh Allen, don't you feel like that's more likely that you're going to have more drop issues than less drop issues because of the way he throws the ball, because he has such good velocity on it? So maybe, for me, it's if he has bad.
What do you have Worthy ranked? After the top 4, who's your next 4?
So I mean, I would love Xavier Legette, so he's probably my fifth. And then I have A.D. Mitchell, Ladd McConkey, and Keon Coleman. I don't love any of those guys in the first round, though. Like Xavier Legette. So top 5, I would take. Harrison Jr. won't be there. So we should have that conversation because Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, and Rome Odunze, they're off the board. We kind of were thinking, well, maybe they could trade up. That's not going to happen.
No way. I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want
No.
As great as those 3 players are, it'd be giving up way too much to move up there.
You'd be giving up next year's first easily. At least.
Yeah.
Yeah, and probably next year's second too.
And this year's second, you don't have a third this year, so you're really
I mean, you'd be going all in on that, and I don't think so. So Bean just had a press conference, and by the way, we're starting the podcast. By the way, this is Nate. You're listening to Circling the Wagons. I'm with my co-host John and Mike, and Bean was at a press conference just this last week discussing not like trading up and what it would be, and he specifically said like that. He didn't like the times where he didn't have a draft pick in the first round the next year. Like when they traded for Stephon Diggs, even though they got a player for him, he was like, but when our pick came around the next year, I was like, man, the guys we could have had, the guys we'd be picking from at that spot. And he did that at Carolina a couple of times. They traded up and they lost their first round pick, and how much they really wanted it the next season. So it feels like they're not going to do that. And why would you, if you were a top 10 pick, which is where those 3 wide receivers will go, top 10, top 11, why the hell would you go back to 28? Why would you, you can get more picks, sure, but like, that's a terrible spot. If I was top 10, I would not want to go back down to 28. When the Bills did that the first year and they traded away their pick to Chiefs so they could get Patrick Mahomes, like, I liked it because they were full rebuild. Like, there was like, we're starting over from scratch, so let's load up on picks. Okay, we're going to get our franchise quarterback next year, so you need as many picks as you can to trade up. Well, if I'm drafting in the top 10, I don't want to give away my 10th overall pick for the 28th pick. I don't know. So we have to think about that. So the top 5 receivers I have are Harrison, Neighbors, Odunze, which we might as well not even mention, but Brian Thomas Jr. and then Xavier Legette. Like, those are the only 2 guys I think I would even remotely consider with the first round pick. And then after that, you're kind of reaching a little bit for talent. So part of me thinks it's
after Thomas, like the next guys are in the same tier for me. Worthy, Mitchell, Legette, Coleman, McConkey. Those are all in the same tier for me.
Okay.
Which
in the first round. So you have 8 receivers in the first round?
I'm saying same tier.
Oh, okay.
So realistically in the first round, how many receivers are going to go? By the time it hits Buffalo might be taking the 6th receiver if they don't move, right? And then there might be 1 or 2 receivers after them, including the Chiefs, that might get taken. So you might end up with 7 or 8 guys taken in the first round.
Remember that you were saying the UCLA defensive end, Liatu Latu, who is like the guy that had like the fused vertebrae and stuff, but like, he's 6'5", almost 260 pounds, 4'6", 40. He's got some size. He's got some, he's 23. So again, kind of a little bit of a knock, probably the reason why he's not a little bit higher. But, if that's the case and you're looking at your 6th wide receiver or potentially the 3rd or 4th best edge defender, like, what do you think? What do you do there?
That's tough. He looks good too. And what about that safety corner guy?
Oh, Cooper DeJean?
Oh my God. He looks so good.
Oh my God, it's amazing. I know, right?
I mean, he might not make it. I mean, neither one of those guys might not make it to us. But like, if they did, you gotta ask yourself, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and if you don't get any of those guys, it's like, should you move back? Should you move back and because defensive.
I don't know. I don't know about moving back. I think staying put is like my first choice. I guess it depends. It really depends on how the draft goes. Like it'd have to be like, okay, now it's my pick. Who's calling and who's available, like to draft. Like it really depend on what happened in the previous 27 picks.
So John, Mike, so I posted this on Twitter. Do you know since 2018, what the average position is of when the 4th receiver is taken off the board in the draft? Which pick it is? Take a guess. Which pick is when the last 6 years or so? when the fourth wide receiver is taken off the board. First round, second round, would pick, whatever you think. Obviously, it'd be ideal if you picked a pick in the first or second round, but when do you think the fourth wide receiver comes off the board, if you had to guess?
So, like, you mean you're looking for, like, a pick
Like
18? Pick
yes.
18. Oh, that's what you're looking for? Okay.
Yep.
Last year they came off.
They didn't come off until, like, 20.
And then it was like 1, 2, 3. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, they were done by the.
I'll just say 18. I said 18, or I'll go with 18.
18 in the first round. Mike, what do you think? How long does it take for the top 4 wide receivers to go off the board?
And that's average.
19.
Right? 18.
19.
19.
19.
Oh, so John went 18. Mike goes 19.
Is that average for over the course of those 6 years? Okay.
Yep,
Yeah,
over the course of those 6 years.
I'll say 18.
I like that. 19. So Mike's actually got this one. So it's pick number 29 in the first round.
Wow.
On average. So, but there's a big variation. It's not like it's normal. So, like last year was the 23rd pick in the first round, like you said. First 4 wide receivers taken right in a row, right? 2022, they were all 4 wide receivers were taken by pick 12. So, like, it depends on the class, obviously. And then, like, in 2018 and 2019, it was well into the second round. It was a 44th pick, altogether, but in the second round, and then the 51st pick.
So here's a question: why did you only go to 2018?
Is
it because the years before that skewed it differently?
No, it's like I didn't want to do like 25 years of it, but like the game that was kind of modern as far as like like a good sample size of how many seasons in between like it was picking. But yeah, I mean, because if I hadn't chose 2018 and 2019, the average position would have been about 18, John. You would have been right. The last 4 years would have been about 18, 17, 18, 16 maybe. So
so
that's why you're like, why'd you
use
those?
The whole thing was just to get me to say the wrong answer.
Yeah, basically. No, but I mean, it kind of gives you, the Bills are picking 28 and 29th is usually, but I think this year.
So now we're regression towards the mean. Now the top 4 are going to go in the top 12.
Yeah. I mean, I could see like a scenario where Brian Thomas Jr., if he gets down to like the low teens, like 17, I think Bean starts making phone calls.
He might not, though.
Hold on. What would it take to get to 17? Let's see. If the Bills are at 660 points at 28, to get to 17, they need 950. So they need to make up 300 points. And their next pick is worth 300. They'd have to give away their second round pick, basically, to do that. Because even if they gave away like 2 of their fourths, I mean, you're looking at that only equal like 80 points. So they need to get to 300. So unless they give away next year's second round pick, which they might, I could see them doing that before they give away this year's second round pick.
Or maybe Dawson Knox is involved in a trade.
Let's do it. I look at
Or on draft day they trade for Brandon Ayuk. They give up their first round pick for Brandon Ayuk. What do you think?
I don't know if I'd give up a first round for him because you're going to have to pay him. It's not.
Would you rather have Brandon Ayuk or A.D. Mitchell, Xavier Legette, Keon Coleman, or Ladd McConkey?
I mean, Brandon Ayuk is a pretty sure thing, right? Like we know he's good.
Exactly.
But then you have to pay him. So like there's the negative.
But that's next year's money. They already have money freed up. Diggs is gone. He doesn't count against the cap next year. They already made other moves to alleviate next year's cap.
Yeah, I mean, in an ideal scenario, right? Like they would get a rookie that was really good his rookie season and then get him for a 4 or 5 year cost controlled, scenario, ideally.
Right. Well, I mean, they need more than one, right? So second or fourth round pick could be receiver 2. Probably not second if they're giving up a first for a receiver, but
nobody ahead of Buffalo's picks like needs a tight end. Like I'm just looking at their team needs. So like no one, if I'm looking at 17, 18, the Jaguars are 17, the Seahawks have nobody has a top need for a tight end. So
well, that was just an example. I mean, look at all these other players they got. Mitchell Trubisky.
Who else would you trade? Who else? Yeah. Who else on this roster? Because I like the Dawson Knox idea of trading him because we have a good backup, so we're ready to,
Well, that could be like help getting like moving up into the third round or something for a guy they like. That might be an idea there.
Yeah. But I mean, even thinking of like players that trade away.
He's really the only guy that I can think of.
I mean, Spencer John, I wouldn't want to Spencer Brown. I wouldn't want to trade him.
No.
He'd get a lot back though right now though at the same time.
And yeah, but he's gonna be. I think he's a free agent next year, right?
He is. Yep. They might franchise tag him though.
Yeah, Knox is the only one I can think of. I think for that, or like Kyrie Elam, but like that, you're not getting much for him. So
yeah, man, it's like I'm looking at this roster and like the guys that they could trade. Yeah, I mean, you could trade like Christian Benford, but then like you'd be out of position. No. So like,
yeah, yeah.
I mean, ideally, you're trading a player away that you already have a backup that's like pretty good, or that could take over and be like 70-80% of that player. But yeah, the Bills just don't have that much. They already traded away like Ryan Bates, the other guy that I thought they had depth in. So yeah,
your offensive line, I'm pretty happy. Like they don't have to draft anybody; they can just go undrafted free agents on the offense. I'd be happy with that, or a 7th round pick or whatever. I'm really happy with their offensive line depth. Ryan Vandermark, Alec Anderson. They got Tommy Doyle still. They signed Will Clapp. I mean, they got a bunch of guys.
Let me know what you think about this, though. So, like a sneaky need. So, if I had to, like our big board of Bills positional needs is still, it's still wide receiver, it's safety at the top, and then like defensive line. So, edge rusher, defensive tackle, and then corner. If you were to, like, we were just talking about, if the first 4 or 5 wide receivers are off the board and the Bills get a chance to pick, let's say Cooper DeJean isn't there. Let's say the top 2 defensive tackles aren't there. Let's say the top 3 edge rushers are gone too. If you had to pick a sneaky position that the Bills would draft in the first round without trading back, could you see another position besides those that you think they might go for? Like, because every year there's always a player that falls. There's always a player that falls down to around where the Bills pick. There's always is.
Kool-Aid, Alabama. It'd have to be a corner, right? That's the only other position.
That's why I was saying Kool-Aid McKinstry from Alabama. I could see that happening. I could see them picking a corner, I guess is my point. Cornerback is one of those sneaky needs that like, hey, they might take one in the first round. It's not ideal. Bills Mafia is going to hate that.
It's a top 5 need. It's a top 5 need. Same tier as defensive line, I'd say.
Yeah, because we have starters, but I mean, we could use depth. They haven't re-signed Rasul Douglas. He's turning 30. They might want another young corner. What do you think about this?
Their best corner is their nickel corner. So, yeah, that's a need.
Okay, I'm going to throw one out to you. Let me know what you think. A center or guard?
No.
What do you mean no?
I just told you like 2 minutes ago that I wouldn't mind if they didn't draft one or they took one in the 7th round.
Oh, I thought you meant tackle.
Offensive line at all, like the whole thing.
John.
I said they got Ryan Vandermark, tackle backup. They got Alec Anderson. They got Will Clapp. They just signed. They still got Tommy Doyle.
Let's look at starters.
They have 12 offensive linemen right now, and they haven't even entered the draft yet.
That doesn't mean they can't improve on it. They had a starting offensive line last year before the draft, and then
not in the first round.
Yeah, listen. Okay, let me make my case for it. Okay, and then you can tell me if you hate the idea or not.
I hate it.
You're asking Connor McGovern to play a position he hasn't played since college at center.
Yeah, they already have Plan B and Plan C on the roster, so I don't know.
I don't think that either Plan B or Plan C would still be better than Connor McGovern.
Okay, so Connor McGovern's a starter. We're agreed. Okay.
So then David Edwards is a starting left guard. How many starts has David Edwards had in the last 2 seasons?
I'm guessing you already know the answer to this.
4 starts. 4 starts in 2 seasons. So obviously they liked him enough to bring him back.
He's been buried on the depth chart. Yeah.
They thought he was good enough. They thought he was good enough that Ryan Bates was made, what's it called? He was expendable, right? So I think there's a possibility where they could either upgrade center to move Connor McGovern back to guard where he played well last year, or they find a guard that they could upgrade over David Edwards. David Edwards is on a 2-year contract, but it's basically a 1-year contract, right? So like he is not here for the long term, not like Connor McGovern is. So I could either see potential. I don't think they want to draft a guard in the first round. I don't think they value that position. But if he was a center guard combo or a center, I could see them looking at that position. So I'm saying it's a sneaky.
They already got a bunch of those. No.
I wouldn't. I'm not saying I would. I'm not saying they should. But I think it's a sneaky position where the Bills might walk away with a center on day one.
Now you're getting down into like a tier 3, top 6 need to draft in the first round. I can't do it. I have that on the same tier as running back 3 and kick returner, punt returner, kicker, punter. Like that's.
But maybe we should be considering it above cornerback.
No.
Because why not though? I think we have 3 better cornerbacks than we have 3 better interior offensive linemen.
There's only 3 though. Like everything after that is suspect, and you could never have enough corners.
But John, you can't use the depth as like the depth is great, sure, but like you have to look at the starters too. Like how much do you really like the starters before you start thinking we have depth? It's like, well, depth is only good if you have like good players ahead of it. You know, like if it's questionable depth and we haven't, we don't know a lot about.
We're just talking about the corners. You were just saying that Rasul Douglas is turning 30. They haven't like extended him yet, and
I'm just saying.
I commented that Taron Johnson is their nickel, and he's their best corner. Like the 2 outside guys aren't as good as Taron Johnson.
But I like Rasul Douglas and Christian Benford better at cornerback than I like David Edwards at guard, and maybe Connor McGovern at center. I'm just saying, I like our 2 starting corners. I do. And I like, obviously, Taron Johnson.
Like you're just trying to
I like that trio.
You're trying to shoehorn a sneaky pick in here just to make a sneaky pick.
Just to be a douche. Just trying to stir the pot. No.
I do want to say I do like Jamarcus Ingram is one of the depth players at corner, but he's unproven just like anybody else. So no, I can't do it. No, it's receiver and safety are the top needs, and then it's defensive line and corner. After that, not as needy.
Man, Zach Frazier from West Virginia, he sounds like a guy that they would draft in possibly the first round. Zach Frazier. Let me tell you a little bit about Zach Frazier, John, Mike. He's 6'2.5", 315 pounds, 22 years old. He was, let's get into the part where I really want you to. Frazier became invested in wrestling and weightlifting throughout childhood. So just right there, that's like, I mean, Sean McDermott loves wrestlers, right? He was a wrestler. He was a all-state wrestler or whatever he was in his high school. He loves wrestlers. Although he like passed on Cree Humphrey, that was also a wrestler and a center, a few years ago, which would have been a great pick instead of Boogie Basham, but neither here nor there.
So you're saying you took a defensive lineman over, which was a bigger need then too, also. So that's interesting.
Yeah, I didn't hate Boogie Basham then, but his arms were longer measure. Let's see, sturdy frame, stout trunk, displays the initial quickness to immediately achieve proper leverage, creates movement in the run game, vice grip hands, and upper body strength to latch, torque, and turn defenders. Above average core strength, blah, blah, blah.
I gotta be honest, I didn't do so much research on offensive linemen because I didn't see it as a need.
Well, I'm telling you, this guy feels like he's a Sean McDermott guy. A 4-year starter, Frazier was a starting center, and head coach Neil Bones' balanced scheme using both zone and gap principles. He put together an All-American resume on and off the field during his time in Morgantown, starting 37 consecutive games at center before breaking his leg in the 2023 regular season finale. At times, his hands get out in front of him, and his feet are a little bit late, but he consistently finds a way to stay under control and finish. Overall, Frazier might not boast elite athleticism or length, but he's good enough in those areas to win over NFL teams with his core strength, football IQ, competitive toughness, and understanding leverage. He projects as a quality NFL starting center the moment he is drafted. Man, the moment he's drafted.
No thanks.
No? Jackson Powers Johnson. We have another center. He is from Oregon, 6'3", 328 pounds. NFL frame, average body twitch, above average body twitch. I mean, this is like, I know you don't like.
I do like Powers Johnson, but I can't for the Bills in the first round. I can't do it.
They do like, remember what they always preach too, the lines, the trenches. They always talk about the trenches, don't they, John?
Yeah, and that's why they're going to draft that defensive end out of UCLA.
Defensive end.
They're going to go back. They're going to go back to the well because they've failed so many times at defensive end. They try again.
Hey, the tenth time's a charm. They've literally only, well, I guess you could call Ed Oliver and Greg Rousseau hitting in the draft at edge or defensive tackle, but man, they have missed on a lot of those guys.
They hit on Von Miller too. It's just he got hurt. It's like everybody likes to rag on that, but like he was really good for the Bills, and then he got hurt.
Yes. Then he got hurt and he beat up his pregnant girlfriend, allegedly. So, yeah. And if he hadn't said that he was going to come back, we'd be completely fine with it.
But maybe
So,
maybe by September he'll be fine.
maybe by September. We'll see. I think so. I'm excited for this season. I think it's a comeback Vaughn this year.
I hope so.
I'm on board.
I hope so.
I'm hoping, but I think it will be. Dude, when was the last time a Hall of Famer like this, still with a few years left to play, just completely fell off the map and just stopped playing and stopped trying? Like, that doesn't happen.
No.
That doesn't happen with guys like that.
Yeah.
He'd have been out of the league by like 29 if that was the case. Like he'd be a Marcel Darius sort of thing where like, as soon as something came up, he just stopped trying. Like he's not that guy. So if anything, he's like too optimistic as opposed to like realistic, right? So anyway, we'll get on to that. So those were some quick draft thoughts, unless you guys have anything else to add for that. Maybe we do a mock draft. You want to do a mock draft later? 3-round mock draft?
Well, the third round should be, so you don't have any picks.
Mike, you can drop out for then. You don't have to stay for that.
You asked.
I was being honest, Mike says. What do you guys think about this? So I mentioned the Brandon Beane press conference. It's voluntary workouts. The Buffalo Bills are in town. Josh Allen was there for the first time since the season ended. He mentioned he had a press conference, mentioned Stephon Diggs obviously had to address that. He said, I attribute a lot of my success to, Diggs being here. And, it's just part of the business. Mind you, like, I think what's interesting about what Josh Allen said is what he didn't say. He didn't say, I really wish Diggs was still here or anything like that. And maybe they can't say that because then it's kind of going against what Brandon Beane did. And you're kind of undermining his decision to trade him. But it sounded like that was like he's ready to move on. He's ready to move on. He didn't say that. He said he attributes it, and he's one of the reasons why he's a good quarterback. But he wasn't like, I still wish I had him on this team. He wasn't like, I'm always going to have a relationship with this guy. He just mentioned that he texted him after he found out about it, stuff like that. But just a sour relationship. How do they go? How does that go from being like, two guys on the cover of SI Kids hugging, best friends issue? How does that happen? Then going from that to like Brandon Beane being like, this guy's undermining Josh Allen or the team so much that we have to trade him. Like he's that much of a drag on it. I don't know if that's Josh Allen maybe not being able to be a leader and keep those guys in line maybe, or he's just too much of a loose cannon that you can't trust him. Like his on the field thing, quality wasn't worth the off the field issues. It still boggles my mind how that happened like that,
I think it's more to do with all the stuff that's not being talked about. He's getting older. It almost seems like he's lost a step over the last half plus season. Dropping a big catch in the playoff game obviously was the cherry on the top, but his, yards after the catch have gone way down. When he does get open, it's barely. He's getting older, and like if they wait till next year, then they have to eat the cap next year instead of this year. And if they wait till next year, they don't get a second round pick out of it. They get something less than that, or it's just not as good. So I think you consider all those things. It just stinks that they didn't have another like top receiver already, but you can kind of see why they did that. Plus they got Kincaid now, so like his targets are going to go way up. They obviously like Shakir, and sent Curtis Samuel. Obviously they still need another couple guys, but I don't think it's the sky is falling because of this.
I don't think his production on the field. I think his attitude plays into it a lot.
Well, wasn't it funny that it was after his tweet that then they traded him like a day or two later? Remember that tweet? I don't know if you saw that, Mike or John, where like somebody
was this the one this offseason, last offseason, during last season, the one 2 seasons ago, or the one 3 years ago?
You know how knowledge is cumulative, so is aggravation.
Is it?
Yeah.
They're not making a trade the next day after a tweet. There was already in talks. There's no way that happened.
Because of year 3 and year 2 and year 1. Well, maybe not year 1.
Maybe not year 1, but yeah. Year 3, year 4.
Year 1 was the honeymoon phase, and then everything after that gets successively worse.
Then Diggs started leaving his shoes on the ground, not by the door where he's supposed to. Like all the things in relationships.
Dishes in the sink.
Never washed them. What about the garbage? It's just sitting in the garage. It's got to be taken out, man.
I could see that being a percentage, but I would think a larger percentage would be the other things I had mentioned.
I think the tweet as sad as that is, looking back at it, I think the tweet might have been like the straw that broke the camel's back, because when somebody mentioned, like, so for those that don't know or didn't see it, the tweet was basically saying, Josh, okay, let me finish. You're talking about aggravation being accumulative. You're starting, John. You're starting that. It's accumulating. So anyway, so it was, somebody had mentioned that, like, Josh, it doesn't take, all right, you're on the list now too, Mike.
All right, I'm signing off. Go Bills.
Dude, screw you guys. Don't ever come back on. No, but it was, somebody had mentioned, like, you know, Josh Allen doesn't necessarily, or needs Stephon Diggs or something. And then it was just a Bills fan underneath saying, Josh makes his receivers better. It's not the other way around. Like, something to that extent. I don't remember the exact quote. John, maybe you know it better because you're on Twitter, right? It was something to that effect.
X. It's called X.
Yeah, I don't call it that, but it is. It is X. I will never call it that.
Yeah, why do you think he said that? Because he already knew he was getting traded.
So the response to that, he's like,
yeah, fuck you guys.
Sure?
I'm getting traded.
He's like, you sure?
We didn't say I'm getting traded. Like, he already knew.
You think that was it? That he knew that's why he did it? Or you think that they saw that? I feel like Bean saw that.
They were because his agent is talking to him. He's like, yeah, the Texans and they have a deal lined up, blah, 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 blah. And like, Dick sees a tweet and he's like, oh, yeah, you think so? And he's like, we'll see tomorrow in his head, right? And then, yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Good point.
The Bills didn't do a knee-jerk reaction because of a tweet. Come on.
You don't think so? You don't think that could have been the straw that broke the camel's back?
No way.
That's the only time that I can remember recently where he tweeted something specific about Josh Allen or the Buffalo Bills.
Because he already knew he was gone.
Because the rest of it's kind of cryptic, right? Like, you know.
Well, it's always been like that. But that's Diggs. That's just him. He did that in Minnesota. He'll do that in Houston. Like, whatever.
I think he tweeted right before he got traded to the Bills something about the Vikings. Like, man, I need to go somewhere where, you know, something to that effect. Anyway.
Everybody knows your name.
They're always glad you came.
You want to go where people know.
Troubles are all the same. You want to
go where everybody
knows
your name. Dude, that gives me chills. That was one of the best intro songs in history. Did you ever see the Simpsons version of it for Moe's?
That sounds familiar, but I don't remember it.
They did it. I can't remember, but I remember it being really funny. Anywho, so it's just interesting to see the. You know,
wait, have you watched the new Frasier? Like, you're a Kelsey Grammer super fan.
I met Kelsey Grammer. I met him. You know what I asked Kelsey Grammer? I can't believe I
thought
didn't.
You were telling him, like, hey, you should do a reboot of Frasier.
I was like, if there's one thing, he's like, oh, it's nice to meet you. Wait, Kelsey, one more thing. If there's one thing you do to cement your legacy. By the way, guy looks, if you're in like acting or like Los Angeles, you look great at age 70. Like, he looks better at 70 than he did at 35. Like, that's just, it's tremendous. Maybe he got rid of the buckle fat, Mike, or
I think you're discounting the financial situation. A rich 70 is a poor 35.
Yeah. Easily. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Katie, so my wife will be like, you know, we're watching something and, you know, there's a woman in her 50s that's an actress. I'm like, wow, she looks great. And she's like, Nate, like, they have so much money and so much plastic surgery at their helm. Like, they're going to look great. You know, like, all they have to do is pay for it. Right. And it's like, okay, that's fair. That's fair.
Well, there's a lot of actors and actresses that have plastic surgery that do not look great after plastic surgery.
Right? Yeah, so...
Well, is that they go to a bad doctor, not pay enough, or what's the problem? I feel like you'd pay any amount.
I think it's a money thing.
They didn't pay enough, apparently.
Dude, Jennifer Aniston money is different than David Schwimmer money, right? Like, let's be honest.
It was David Schwimmer that was the genius that encouraged them all to negotiate together to get $1 million per episode.
Oh, was that his idea?
Yeah, he was the financial genius behind that.
No kidding.
Mm-hmm. But I guess your point is, like, she went on to be a movie star and make 10, 15 million a movie.
Easily the most popular out of all of them, right? I don't think that's even yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're like trying to pick a fight. You're daring us to disagree.
I thought about it for a second, but I can pick my battles.
John's like, damn it, I don't want to agree because I hate these two, but I'm still pissed about that one thing Nate said. Anyway, so
you told him like, hey, you should do a reboot. And then as he's walking away, you're like, but whatever you do, make sure you get Niles. And he didn't hear that part.
He's like, nah, fuck that.
Now
he's like, why would I bring the one person that like made that show just as good, right? Like, oh.
He should have foregone his salary and given his salary all to Niles.
Oh my goodness, it's so
just to
worth
make it successful.
Yeah, I haven't watched it. Is that Paramount Plus? Something like that, right?
Yeah,
I don't have Paramount Plus. I'm about.
I
to
watched
get it.
one or two. It just wasn't the same.
Oh no,
no.
So
Niles, man.
Who is in it? Because his dad passed away. So who else could be? Is what's her
name?
Not
the dog. Ross? Also not in it.
Maybe you'd be surprised to know that dog, that 35-year-old dog, is also passed on.
Well, humans can't really distinguish, but they could have just had a replacement dog because humans aren't good at telling dogs apart.
Oh yeah, it's true.
Or they could even played it off like, "Wow, this is the oldest dog ever."
Definitely, that's funny.
They wheel in whatever his name is, Buddy or whatever his name. They wheel him in like he's got a doggy diaper on now. Like that's just barely lifts his head up for the action shot. You know, like it happens. Hey, it's getting old. It all happens to all of us. No, but I remember asking him. I wish I'd asked him about The Simpsons because I loved it when he was Sideshow Bob. But I asked him like how many. He mentioned that he directed episodes of Frasier, and he really enjoyed doing that. And I kind of forget, like, you know, even though you're the artist, like some people aspire to do more than just act. They want to be the one deciding how, you know, it plays out. And he remembered the exact amount of episodes that he directed of Frasier, which I think is impressive because there could have been like 300 episodes of Frasier. He knew it was like 43. He's like, well, I directed 43 episodes. And he mentioned to my mom, because my mom was really kind of shy, you know, what's your favorite episode? And God, now I can't remember what it is. She would remember.
Is it the one when they take the mechanics class?
No, that was my mom's favorite. So that's what he said.
Oh, I thought that was the question.
Oh no, that was my favorite. He mentioned, so her favorite was the Winnebago one where they like go travel in that thing. And he's like, I directed that one. That's how that came up. He's like, I directed that one. I was like, oh yeah, that was a good one. But
he probably just updated his resume, so he was fresh in his mind that he directed 43 episodes.
He was in talks already for the new Frasier.
I agree with John. That did not seem very impressive.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, I would. If somebody was like, Nate, how many?
He's a savant because he remembers. Like,
dude, if somebody asked me like how many projects I worked on in the last 10 years, I couldn't give you a ballpark. It could be 20. It could be 80. I have no freaking clue.
Because you're not looking for a new job right now. If you had updated your resume recently, you would know all that.
That's true. I would know that for the next. I'd say 80. I would just give him a ballpark number, but like I could not tell you, and nor do I care. But for him, it was like a rite of passage or something. It was just like,
well, he might be on his Wikipedia page every night too.
Yeah,
you got to update that every day.
No, he does not suck balls. Like correction. Yeah. No, a super cool guy, super friendly. I don't know where I was going with any of that, but yeah, Frasier's coming back.
It was at a paid engagement, correct?
Yes.
I feel like it's like the bartender thing, like, oh, he was so friendly. Well, like the bartender isn't always hitting on you.
Mike thought the bartender was hitting on him. Be like, I think he's into me. And his girlfriend's like, yeah, maybe. I don't know. Why does it matter? Mike, do you remember that time I got hit on in front of you at the mall? We were like 20 or something like that. John, let me set the scene for you. We went to this mall near us, and we were buying, I think you were buying sandals, or was I buying sandals or something like that at this shoe store. And this guy was like clearly into me. And he was at, oh yeah, I must have been buying the sandals because he's like, oh, where do you go to the beach? Like, oh yeah, you know, well, we play beach volleyball at this place, you know. He's just like, oh, he's like, yeah, me and my friends, you know, there's like this hangout spot at this beach. He's like, yeah, you guys should come, you know, like, or
near the sewage out.
Right near the raw sewage
pier.
pipe. You know that place where they dump all the toxic chemicals from Kodak? That place. Like, yeah, totally. They're like, the cops don't even come by that area anymore. It's great. But he was like clearly talking to me also. And like as much as I think any man's ever hit on me. And we left that place. So Mike was right there the whole time. We leave that place. And I was like, Mike, I think that guy was kind of like hitting on me. And you were like, yeah. I was like, well, isn't that funny? If he thought I was gay, I'm surprised he didn't think I was with you. And Mike's like, yeah, it's kind of bullshit, right? What the hell?
That's a good point.
It's a good point. Guy didn't give a shit. Or maybe he just knew Mike was straight, but I was kind of questionable. It's like, I don't know about this guy. But...
Or maybe he thought I was out of his league.
That's true. He maybe...
You were the Jennifer Aniston of the two of us.
It's like, maybe I'll settle for David Schwimmer.
Lisa Kudrow, whoever the worst. Yeah, David Schwimmer of the group. I have a chance with this guy. He sounds dumb enough to meet us at the raw sewage area of the beach. That's where they just drug me and steal all my stuff. Anyway, so yeah, it wasn't much to take away from the Josh Allen thing besides the fact that it just, sounded like he was ready to move on, wasn't living in the past. And yeah.
Well, you can't. I mean, the second the player's gone, you can't especially in front of the media, you can't dwell on it. You have to be like, all right, we're going to the next thing, right? We're going to be fine and we're going to move on. So it doesn't matter how he feels. That's just how he has to say it. And there we go.
So then there was news also out of One Bills Drive, which was really interesting, is that the Bills are looking to sell an ownership stake of the Buffalo Bills. So a statement from the Buffalo Bills: the Pegula family has retained Allen and Company, no relation, to explore the potential sale of non-control. Wouldn't that be funny if it was run by Josh Allen and like his father? He's like, we get 10% of the sale. Was retained Allen and what a great job, by the way, being Allen and Company, whoever that is. Your job is just to find more billionaires to buy parts of this existing like commodity that's already quadrupled in value over the last 10 years. What a great business to be in. To explore the potential sale of a non-controlling minority interest in the Bills. These discussions only involve the Bills and no other team. No investment would be possible without Terry Pegula and the Pegula family maintaining a controlling interest in the team. Well, duh.
Yeah.
No investment.
Yes, it's not controlling, and then they want to maintain controlling. Yeah, so it's just an investment for somebody else, basically, is what this is.
Yeah. But I think that second paragraph was just them stroking the Pegulas. No investment would be possible without Terry Pegula and the Pegula family. Yeah, of course. Like, this wouldn't be possible if they didn't own the team. Yes, okay, got it.
No, what they're saying is it wouldn't be possible without the Pegulas maintaining a controlling interest in the team.
Gotcha.
That's the key part.
The key part
is just reiterating the first sentence where it says a potential sale of a non-controlling minority interest. They're saying, reiterating that they are going to be the controlling interest of the team.
Mm-hmm. Did AI write this statement for the Bills? I think AI would have done a better job. Their continued commitment to Western New York, the new Highmark Stadium, our fans, and the other teams in their portfolio remains unchanged. Neither the team nor the Pegula family are able to comment further at this point. So what do you guys think about that? It's kind of interesting that the Bills are signing a minority stake. Do you think that this has anything to do with like the overages and construction costs for the stadium itself? Like, I mean, they're on the hook for, it could be $1 billion or more for the stadium. And sure, they might get some back from PSLs, but it's not going to be immediately. Like they're still working on that. Like they just started rolling out ticket pricing for the new stadium, So
it's expensive to own a team.
It's crazy,
especially NFL now. It's insane.
Dude, Jeff Bezos couldn't buy the Commanders. That's how much money it costs to buy the team. Like, right? Like it's crazy. Crazy how much money. But isn't it also crazy? So they're willing to give away a 25% stake, I think, is roughly the numbers I've heard. And the Bills as an organization are worth close to $4 billion right now, right? So that's the last time they were evaluated by Forbes.
I think Jeffrey Bezos, born in 1964, could have
done it. He just didn't go up high enough, right? He's got the money.
He's made that money in this last month. he could have bought it, outright. Jeffrey Bezos born in 1964. Is that the song?
Yeah.
I had a dream about Jeff Bezos the other night, oddly enough. He seemed like a nice guy.
What was he doing to you?
Oh, don't worry about that.
Was he at the same store, or is this where you're buying your sandals?
See, he was selling me sandals, oddly enough, and inviting me to a beach party with his friends. So, I just met him. He was a super cool guy, super down to earth. I forget where we were, like at like a social gathering, obviously it was like a bunch of people there, like where you would meet a billionaire like that. And I remember meeting him and being like, "Oh, a lot of people give you shit because you're like a billionaire, but you seem pretty down to earth." She's like, "Yeah, I don't know why people don't like me more. I'm a pretty cool guy." I was like, "Yeah."
Even in your dreams, you practice sucking up to people. I know how much he's worth. Who wants to go first? Nate, you should go first. What do you think?
How much Bezos is worth? God, 100 billion.
John,
I have no clue.
I'd say more than that, actually. I'm sure it's.
I'll go.
If I was John, I'd say 101.
I'd
say 101. It's probably more like 300 or something.
John, what'd you say?
101.
100 billion and 1 penny.
Correct. You got it. Ding, 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 ding.
Well, no. Because within the last second you said that, he definitely made more than a penny.
But it's all in Amazon stock, and the market's closed. 193 billion.
193 billion. Wow. What do you even do at that point? Like you've reached, like you have. I mean, what do you even do at that? But you can buy everything you've ever wanted to buy, like 10 years ago. Like there's nothing left, right? I heard a comedian talk about, he went on a cruise ship that Jeff Bezos put on for like all these other ultra rich people, like a cruise ship, like they rented it out, right? So there might have been like 50 or 100 like billionaires / like really wealthy people. And like, it was just so that they could experience what a cruise was like without having to go on, with like people like us, with like the peasants. But like the comedian, of course, he's got a vested interest in this, so he can go back on Jeffrey Bezos' cruise. But he said like those guys were like super cool to hang out with. Like they were like, one guy, who's the guy that owns the Seahawks? Paul
Allen
was on the cruise also, right? And like this Indian billionaire was like, "Oh yeah, you own the Seahawks. Is that like a basketball team?" Like to us, we're like, "What? How do you not know that?" And it's just how they are. Like they don't know everything. They're like know their own. He's like, no, it's like a football team. Like, could you imagine? I don't know. It's just a different world, man. But he's like, no, they were really actually pretty down to earth. He's like, but they can't enjoy things like you or I would at least cruises with like normal people. He's like, because everyone would be wanting to talk to them the whole time. They'd never enjoy any of it, so anyway, so they're selling a minority stake. Wouldn't it be cool if we could somehow pool together our 401ks or something to somehow buy a minority stake into the Buffalo Bills? Or if there's a way that like we could like crowdfund this.
Are they looking for like a single 25% person or multiple people to add up to 25%?
I feel like it's a single 20. Doesn't it feel like a single 25% person?
Because I don't think our 401ks are adding up.
Oh, you're not at $1 billion yet in your 401k, John? Well, obviously your investing is subpar. Mm-hmm. The market's been killing it lately. I don't know how. Yeah, it'd be cool. It'd be cool if they could do something similar to like what Green Bay did, which the NFL will never let happen again, where you could like buy stakes within it. Like that would be so cool.
It would be.
I mean, we were talking about that when the Pegulas bought it, like if there was some way to like crowdsource it or whatever, but there just wasn't. So anywho, that's where we're at there. So you guys want to do a quick 3-round mock draft?
Yeah.
All right, let's do this. I'm bringing up I have the monster running in the background.
I don't have any offensive linemen on my big board for first round picks, so I don't.
Okay, well, that seems very short sighted, John. We're being honest. You should be considering everything, including
maybe running back.
Select a team to trade with. So okay, I might offer a trade too. Ooh. Like after what's the earliest that you would offer a trade? Like for
it depends where it would depend where Brian Thomas was falling to, because there's no way they're trading in the top 10 for one of the top 3. They just can't do it.
So it's interesting. In this mock draft, Roma Dunze went at number 4. Malik Neighbors went at number 5. Marvin Harrison Jr. hasn't even gone yet, and we're at pick 8. Interesting.
Okay,
right?
then maybe I would do it then.
He went at number 9 to the Bears.
Are you kidding me?
Crazy, right?
Well, I mean, I could see maybe I can't see both of them going above Harrison. I don't know.
So now we're getting to pick 15 or so. I think the earliest we even think about it is pick 17 that I mentioned earlier, where we give away a second round pick.
Yeah, it's the earliest.
I think that's the earliest, the absolute earliest you should think about Brian Thomas Jr. So he hasn't been picked yet. So he wasn't picked by the Jaguars at 17. Now, if we were to make a trade with the Bengals, let's see, we'd obviously need to give away.
The Steelers are looking for a receiver maybe at 20.
So listen to this. Okay. The way that PFF has it is that if the Bills give away their 4th round pick this year and a 3rd next year, this trade has a 74% chance to be accepted. Like I don't think the Bengals will trade with us, so I'm going to not trade with them here. But I just wanted to see what it would roughly cost
for
the Bills to do this.
That would be the worst.
You're giving away one of your 3 4th round picks, right?
Well, they have 2 4th rounds, right?
Do they have 2? I thought they had 3 for some reason.
They had 3
Oh,
fifths,
yeah.
but I think they get and 3 sixths, but I think they got rid of. What did they give away in the digs? It was a fifth and something.
It was like a 5th this year, a 5th and a 6th next year or something.
5th and a 6th, yeah. So the 4th round picks wouldn't be affected by that.
So yeah, there's only 2 4th round picks. You're right. But they have an early 5th round pick from someone. I can't remember where that one was from. But so would you give? I mean, next year's 3rd round pick, I could give a crap less about. I mean, I would obviously like it, but like a 3rd this year.
They have 2 seconds next year, so it's not
2
bad.
seconds. No, it's not that bad. So give away a 4th this year and a 3rd next year, like 100%. That seems like a no-brainer to me.
If they really want Brian Thomas or another different player, they could trade up for that defensive end. Or we didn't talk about that. They could trade up and not take a receiver.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how
As
likely
far as,
that is, but they could.
Yeah, they could trade up and not take a wide receiver. I feel like that's unlikely, but maybe. So right now, I mean, Bengals, their 18th pick, we give them our 1st round pick, and then also our 4th and our 3rd next year. That seems. What's the highest you would do? A 2nd next year? A 4th this year and a 2nd next year? That seems.
I don't want to do that.
I would do this. I would give up our 4th round pick this year and our 3rd next year for this trade. Easily.
What about the 2nd 4th instead of the 1st 4th? What's the percentage go down to?
It's only 2% less likely to be.
I'll give them the 2nd one then.
Yeah. Think I gave a shit? Nice. Okay. All right. So we're going to resume this draft. I like how you can force the trades. I do like that function. So the Bengals did not take a wide receiver. So now the Rams are up on the clock. So for 19, do we give them a 3rd and our 4th this year and a 3rd next year? It says this trade will not be accepted now for the. Oops, I forgot this one. That's what. 88% chance of taking. What about a 4th round pick next year? Let's see how low we can go. They're like, nah, that's not going to happen.
You think the Steelers would take Brian Thomas, like on the very next pick?
Well, they did just trade away Deontay Johnson, right?
That's what I was thinking.
I think it's very possible that they take Brian.
I don't
Thomas
think
Jr.
Miami or Philly would, and I don't think Minnesota would either. 21, 22, 23. Even though,
Miami...
yeah, I don't think Dallas would. Green Bay won't.
Oh man, that's looking good. It's not.
And then
at this point, John,
Arizona already took a receiver. I'm guessing at the top of the draft.
Yep. Yeah, Dunze.
Who's before Arizona?
The Bucks.
Buccaneers, and they just re-signed Mike Evans. So really, at this point, Pittsburgh is the only team we have to worry about.
Yeah, it says Philly has a big need at wide receiver, but they have A.J. Brown. They just gave a huge contract to Devonta Freeman, so I feel like that's
and they got Goddard, and they got receiving weapons. I mean, any of these teams could take them, but I think our biggest worry would be Pittsburgh. For sure.
So it's not only Pittsburgh. So it's possible that if it gets through Pittsburgh right now, like
it could go to us.
We could go to us, but you know what's going to happen.
Somebody else will trade up. Yeah.
Somebody else is going to see that we're up, and at 28, they're going to try to get ahead of us.
Kansas
right?
City will be like, let's make a trade. Let's go.
Yeah. Kansas City's number one needs based on this, and so does Baltimore. Baltimore's number one need is wide receiver as well. So like either of those teams could come up ahead of the Bills and try to make a trade. So I think Beane's going to be super aggressive this year with trying to trade up with the team. Now they could do that with the Rams, and try to do that. The Steelers, I know that the Dolphins won't trade with them, so I don't think that'll happen. But yeah, John, I think you're right. Do you want to see what the Rams pick? Let's see what they pick. Brian Thomas Jr., son of a bitch.
Well, I guess I can see that now that you now that it's written down on the thing. Yeah, I should have traded.
We should have done. What was wrong with us? Why didn't we pull the trigger? Okay, so maybe we have to get. So it's like I can't see the Bengals trading with us, though. I can't.
So at this point, I wouldn't trade up for anybody.
It's like the Jaguars are, because
they could still trade up for that. I do. Is that defensive end still available? I like him a lot.
Do you like Hulot?
Latu?
Is he still on the board? Yes, he is.
Oh, I guess just see how it plays out. Like you can't predict trades anyway, right?
No, you can't. You can't. And there'll be so many trades in between here. There, Cooper DeJean is gone. Just so you know, he went to the Steelers.
Yeah.
More quarterbacks. Nate Wiggins, the quarterback from Clemson, went to the. Latu just went to the Packers. So Marius Mims, the tech.
So now we're gonna pick Edna Mitchell. I'm guessing.
Like last week,
just like last time.
So we can't get the defensive ends that we wanted. Let's look at far as defensive tackles go.
At this point, it's either Worthy or Mitchell for me. I got to be honest.
You don't think you won't look at Newton for the defensive tackle out of Iowa or Illinois rather?
Nah.
Newton is a second round grade for Dane Brugler. He has him as like the 16th overall prospect. He's 6 foot. He's 6 foot, 297 pounds. Let's see. Power packed, explosive first step athlete. Comes off the ball low and natural strong with natural body flexibility. Lines up in a wide stance, uses lateral quickness and loose change of direction to access multiple gaps. Hands are both urgent, but goes to move. A one-year starter at Texas, Murphy played multiple spots on the interior of defensive coordinator Jeff Choate's scheme. Although his stats don't jump off the page, his production improved each season, and he finished 2023 with a team best 45 pressures and ranked number 1 among all FBS interior defensive linemen in pass rush win percentage. John, can you imagine lining him up next to Ed Oliver on pass rush packages?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds good. I had him closer to a potential second round pick for us, but I don't not like him. But
so you still
if it's between him and Worthy or Mitchell, I don't know. I'm thinking I'm still leaning Mitchell at this point.
Yeah. I think the Bills would pick Newton over Mitchell, though. I think all those things you mentioned, the diabetes, not that that should be a knock against him, but when he's not managing it well enough that he becomes.
Doesn't Mark Andrews have diabetes and he's been phenomenal?
It's not just that. It's just that he hasn't been managing it well enough, and that it's caused him to be really irritable and stuff. And combatant in the locker room, supposedly, allegedly, based on what Ty Dunn was mentioning in his, what he's been hearing from other GMs and scouts. So plus there was the issue of him not finishing routes and stuff like that. I think it's enough to draw the Bills away from him.
So hurry. So if you did take a receiver, there's going to be 5 or 6 guys. The next 5 or 6 guys are not making it to their second round pick.
No. So Troy Franklin, Ladd McConkey, Xavier Legette, obviously Roman Wilson,
Coleman,
Ricky
Pearsall, Worthy, all those guys. Those are all in the same tier for me. Every single one of them. I got after Brian Thomas, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different guys that could be taken potentially in any order. And then even after that, I got Tez Walker and Jalen Polk and Jermaine Burton and.
Would you go edge defender?
Corley, and you got Brendan Rice, and if it's Edge defender. I don't know, is Chop Robinson available still?
Yes, he is. He's still available.
I did notice. I saw that Kool-Aid is still available. Also,
I think they go that way. I think that they would take a cornerback in that spot, a corner that fell a little bit further. I think that they would take him.
it's hard. I'm really interested to see what they do on draft day because they could really picking that late.
It's
There's
at
just so many
6'1".
possibilities.
At 6'1", he's got great size and length to match up on the outside against bigger receivers. He's very comfortable and experienced in press man coverage, and also has a good feel for spacing and zone. I mean, this guy sounds like he's the real deal. Like, he's got length, he's got size, and he's got intelligence to play on Nick Saban's, defense as a true freshman. He's a good athlete, but not an elite one for the NFL level where it comes in style. I mean, the Bills never necessarily draft elite athletes at corner, So that doesn't make me say that they won't do that. I think if I'm the Bills, I think they pick there or Chop Robinson, the defensive end out of Penn State, 6'3", 250 pounds. Robinson is an alien-like athlete. He has some jaw-dropping plays where he can fire off the line and get into the backfield with ease. However, outside of the first step and fast hands, he is an incomplete pass rusher. Most of his backfield production comes from him feasting off an inferior tackle if he's facing one that week. He could also struggle with length against NFL-caliber tackles. His pass rush profile needs to expand as he does not have a regular rotation of pass rush moves or counters when he doesn't win with athleticism off the jump. He's a strong run defender, has some reps where he gets out of his gap to try to make a play. I mean, if you're going to draft a guy like that, this is the year when you still have Von Miller here to learn from.
It's possible. It's possible that they could do any of those things.
What would you do, John? Cooper DeJean's gone, so that pretty much takes safety off the board for us in the first round. Jackson Powers Johnson is still available. Can we talk about Ladd McConkey for just a second? Because I posted this on Twitter, and it's like, I know Brandon Beane says that when he's looking at wide receiver, he's looking for skill sets that he doesn't have already. But at the same time, I know Ladd McConkey is
so not a slot receiver.
So not a slot receiver. Ladd McConkey's not a slot receiver. He can play in the slot, but he's not a slot receiver.
X or Z.
I think he'd be more of a Z receiver because he's not huge. He's not really a physically strong player at all. He's like 6'1", like 186 pounds.
No, I agree. I agree. He would be in that.
But they don't.
Same thing with like Worthy, maybe, or Purcell, or Wilson, or Franklin. But Coleman, Leggett, and Mitchell would be the other type.
Yes, exactly. So to me, I was kind of like, hey, let's just think about Ladd McConkey. He seems like he's like an excellent route runner. He seems like one of those guys. I mean, he has had an injury issues in college where he missed parts of the 2023 season. So like he's got injury issues and he's not super strong because he's not big. He's like not filled out. Like, and they say that I was reading something and the analysts were saying it doesn't look like he can add much bulk to his body. So like that's kind of stinks too because he's got like a 6'1" frame. I think he's 6'1", but he's got good hands. He's an excellent like elite route runner, right? Like so, there's a lot to like about him. He's got great football intelligence, great footwork, release, gives him advantage against press coverage. So my thinking with this is that you have Ladd McConkey and you have Curtis Samuel and Khalil Shakir. Like those are three guys that are very, very similar in skill sets, like they're all fast. They all like are, decent route runners. They can all play on the outside and inside. And it's like, well, maybe that's a good thing, man. Like maybe it's a good thing to have three guys that are similar in like three wide receiver twos instead of like a guy that they could get where if they get, AD Mitchell or Troy Franklin, like that's not a true wide receiver one. Like maybe instead of reaching for that, like you get the Ladd McConkey,
Here's the question, and it may not make any difference because of smoke screens and everything, but have any of these guys that we've been talking about been in for one of those 30 visits that everybody keeps talking about?
Yes, here, I'm going to give you the list. Let's see. I know Cooper DeJean, they just said, because that's the article I'm looking at, and then it stopped. Too many ads going at the same time. Okay. Let's see. Who have the Buffalo Bills seen, John, you ask? Trey Benson, running back out of Florida State. Troy Franklin, the wide receiver out of Oregon. Devontae Walker, the wide receiver out of North Carolina, John, the one you mentioned earlier. And that's all they have at Pro Football Network. Okay, Liatu Latu, the defensive end from UCLA that you mentioned earlier, John.
Yeah.
Let's running back Audric Esteem from Notre Dame. He looks interesting as like a mid-round prospect. Cooper DeJean, like I mentioned. Troy Franklin, I mentioned. Wide receiver Jalen McMillan from Washington. Cornerback Quantez Stiggers. Wide receiver Keon Coleman. Defensive tackle Mason Smith. Safety Kitan Oladipo. Defensive end Marshawn Keelan. Defensive tackle Christian Boyd. Wide receiver Tez Walker. We mentioned that earlier. Offensive lineman Jordan Morgan. See offensive lineman, John. Cornerback MJ Devonshire. Running back Trey Benson. Wide receiver Ryan Flournoy. Sorry. Wide receiver Xavier Worthy. John, there's your boy. Defensive back Andrew Phillips. So, yeah, Xavier Worthy and Troy Franklin are the only two on this list that have been. So, as far as I know, I think Ladd McConkey met with the Bills at the Combine, but I don't think he's been on their top 30 visits. John, I'm going to let you pick this one. But I will ask that you pick someone other than A.D. Mitchell, because we did that last week twice. So, make a difficult decision. You're Brandon Bean. Corner, do you want to go Kool-Aid? Do you want to go Chop Robinson? You going to go Xavier Legette? You won't get a good draft grade, but you're going to make Bills Mafia happy.
I kind of have all those guys on the same tier, so I'd go receiver.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd either go like Worthy or Legette, I guess, or Coleman. You can pick. I don't care.
Legette is for sure. I like him better than all those guys.
Do it.
All right, Xavier Legette, Buffalo. Chop Robinson went right after Xavier Worthy went right after that. A.D. Mitchell went right after that. Ladd McConkey went right after that. All the
because they're all in the same. They're all in the same spot, so like you got to pick one, and then
dude, this goes to our point that you kind of have to pick one in the first round because we just saw like that whole tier. You mentioned like 10 guys in that tier, right? Like a lot of guys. They're all gone. It looks like,
yeah,
and they were all gone right after.
Yep. That's what makes it so difficult.
This is who's left of like wide receivers that we were just talking about. Ricky Pearsall, and then Javon Baker, Devontae Walker, Malachi Corley, Jermaine Burton. Like, I'm not excited about any of these guys. Like, I could make a case for maybe Ricky Pearsall.
Yeah, Pearsall.
I'd rather have him in the second round, though.
Yeah, Pearsall. It's our pick now in the second round, right?
Yes, it is. It is. It picks
boom, take him.
We're not going Xavier Legette, Ricky Pearsall.
Why not? Why not?
I mean, I guess we could. I
don't have any other receiver graded as highly for the second. Like, who else is available?
I'd rather get Brendan Rice. I'd rather get Brendan Rice in the fourth round than take.
Well, yeah, no, in the fourth, but like you don't know if you're going to get him in the fourth.
True.
Okay, what other positions are available?
Okay, let's look. That's why this is a good exercise. So let's look at the top players. So we have. You're not going to take a running back. I know you, John.
Nope.
Jaden Hicks, the safety out of Washington State. Chris Braswell, the edge defender out of Alabama. Christian Hayes, guard out of Connecticut. I don't think they're going to go guard the spot. I don't think. I mean, I know like a lot of guys are going to be available in the first round. Some of these second round prospects, so I'm kind of. I know the wide receivers better.
Braswell, I'd like to see maybe.
Oh, Braswell, do you? Let's see. Chris Braswell, edge defender out of Alabama, 6'3", 255 pounds. Brasman is an impressive athlete on the edge. First step explosiveness, pursuit speed, natural strength are all starting caliber for the NFL. His speed to power bull rush moves move even the biggest offensive tackle back at least 2 or 3 steps. It's taken him some time to hone his fundamentals to get on the field as a starting outside linebacker, and it didn't help. He had Will Anderson Jr. in front of him. He still has some inconsistencies with his hand placement and pass rush timing. He needs more counters and better hand usage to get off blocks. Even so, this kind of athlete wins at the professional level. I like that one. I like that, John. Part of me is thinking like you never go wrong with an Alabama athlete, but I could see that. Let's look at defensive tackles real quick. Let's see. Who do we have? So Rook Horo from Clemson is an option. Brandon Dorless. Dane Brugler has him more of like a third round prospect from Orland.
Same.
Or from from Oregon. Michael Hall Jr. out of Ohio State. A lot of Bills fans like Devondre Sweat. Dane Brugler has him as a 4th-round prospect. So out of these guys, I mean, the highest rated one on Dane Brugler's board is Rook.
What about I don't mind Michael Hall Jr. either.
Wait, real quick, Oro, more of like a 3-tech defensive tackle. Weighed just 265 pounds as an edge rusher when he joined the Tigers, but has since bulked up to 290 to play inside. His body makes him a tweener in the defensive line, but he is strong for his frame. Gives him a ton of versatility. He's played everything from 0 technique to 5 technique. Brandon Beane loves versatility. He's a reliable player in run defense, consistently staying square with the ball carrier. As a pass rusher, he wins with speed and power, but his profile outside of his athleticism is lacking. So let's go back to Dorless. Is that who you were looking at?
Michael Hall Jr. was what I was thinking.
Oh, yeah. Michael Hall Jr., 6'2", 280 pounds. He is not long enough to be a 3-4 or 4-3 defensive end. At 280 pounds, he's not big enough to be a full-time defensive tackle. However, his play is quite productive, and his lower weight, speed, and quickness are his calling cards. He loves to get across an offensive lineman's face to shoot a gap and get into the backfield. He does this either with a fast club arm over by settling with his blockers up with a Euro step before making a move. As a run defender, he's strong for his size, especially when he maintains lower leverage. But inconsistent, too wide or too low. Hand placement negates that at times. Man, you think they go for a tweener, a defensive tackle? That doesn't sound like Beane, does it?
I'm thinking more Braswell or another receiver. Is there another corner that we haven't talked about?
Oh, there's some corners, buddy.
I don't know if there's anybody that's, I guess who's available. I don't know. Who we got?
Oops. Kyrie Jackson, the cornerback out of Oregon. Let's see. Let's see who the highest ranked one on Dane Brugler's board is. Renardo Green. Let's see.
I don't look at who's available, and I'm not.
These guys are all rated really low.
Yeah, I don't see anybody that's worth this pick.
PFF has these guys like way lower. Kalen Carson. I mean, these are like 4th and 5th round guys that on Dane Brugler's big board. Actually, this is for Kalen Carson out of Wake Forest is the first guy that's actually has a 3rd round grade. But the problem is we're looking at the 2nd round. Mm-hmm. Jerry Jones out of Florida State. I mean, that's a 6th round prospect for Dane Brugler. Chris Abrams-Drain, he's a 3rd or 4th round prospect. I mean, again, we're in the 2nd round. Jarvis Brownlee-Lee, again, 3rd round pick for Dane Brugler.
Yeah, there's a big drop off after the top half of the corners.
Yeah, so the corners suck here. Okay, no, so not a corner.
All right, so I vote for either Braswell or what did I say? Braswell or
Ricky Pearsall?
Yeah, up to you.
Let's do Braswell. I think that's probably what's going to happen. I don't think they go back to back. So at least we got. Well, that's a good.
And this
draft.
This doesn't factor in the Brandon Ayuk trade. So
All right. So far in our draft, we've picked Xavier Legette and Chris Braswell. So we got our X receiver. We got defensive end with some upside.
So how happy are you with those 2 picks?
I mean, I like it. I'm not
on a scale of 1 to 10.
So I wasn't.
Draft.
I feel like we keep looking at the wide receivers, and I'm never happy. I'm never in love with any of those players. I don't love them. I would draft them, and I'd be okay with it, but I don't love them. And unfortunately, all the players that we're looking at, there wasn't a player outside of the wide receivers that I was in love with, right? So that kind of stinks. That I don't love it, but I'd be okay with it, right? That's kind of what.
So a 5 out of 10.
Yeah. What do you think? What would you say? What do you think about those 2 picks? Would you have rather? Here's a question for you, John.
It's not exciting, but it's.
Would you? Yeah.
It's not bad. It's not bad. It's 7.5 out of 10.
7.5. Okay. Would you have rather gone Chop since we went wide receiver defensive end? Would you have rather gone Chop Robinson in the 1st and Ricky Pearsall in the 2nd, defensive end and wide receiver that way? I feel like I'd rather go this way.
I actually think it's close for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's pretty close.
It's close for me too.
I could be. Yeah, I think it's close.
Ricky Pearsall, explosive playmaker, knack for big plays, strong contested catch ability, just an inconsistent route runner, undersized for wide receiver, not ideal. A lot of these guys, they're tall, 5'11", 6 foot. That's not tall for a wide receiver, but they're not short. They're not like Xavier Worthy 5, Xavier Worthy's like 5'11", isn't he? He's not that short. He's just small. He's like 165
Depends on what
pounds.
website you look up.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. It's if they don't get Brian Thomas, it becomes a conundrum because we don't have a scouting department.
No.
So it might be easier for the Bills. Right?
Yeah.
It's just me and you looking at players and reading articles and like looking at highlights.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember seeing him play in a game or two, right? I mean,
yeah. The highlights are great, man. I never see the guys whiff on anyone in the highlights.
No, yeah. Everybody's amazing in the highlights.
Man. So that's kind of what, that's kind of what I think. Like, I don't love any of the options that we had at the first round, unfortunately. But then again, what do they say? Like a lot of teams only have like 20 first round grades for players. The good thing I will say, because I know you're big on Xavier Worthy, it sounds like, right? Like you do like him, the wide receiver from Texas.
I didn't initially, but only because of the size. But I've warmed up to him and maybe other players that didn't have the size necessarily either recently. Only because now that they need two receivers, like prior to Diggs, I wanted a big-bodied only receiver, but now it's like, well, they kind of need both, so they can just get whatever.
Yeah, get the best of whatever.
As long as it's not like solely a slot guy, because they already have that.
Yeah, exactly. That's basically what you're looking for, is a guy that's like completely not a slot only guy, which I think Ricky Pearsall might be more of a slot guy also. So maybe one of the reasons to stay away from him. But yeah, cool, John. Well, this was fun. We were getting a lot closer to the draft, more things to discuss. I can't believe the draft's only, it's this week. It's this week. Crazy, man. Day one, first round of the draft, Thursday night, man, this is going to be fun. It's going to be fun. I'm so excited. I feel like you said, I feel like I just wanted it to be here. I just want the speculation to end. Like, what do we know? What's going to happen? Is Bean going to trade up to get his guy, or is he going to stick put? Is he going to trade back? I mean, what he said this last week in his press conference that he was willing to trade back this last year. If Dalton Kincaid was going to get drafted before he was willing to trade up for him, he had a package in place to drop back. I think it was into the second round, or at least trade back, that he really liked from another team. It just didn't happen because Kincaid was there and he was able to get a trade done for him. So, he's willing to do that, or maybe he's just at least throwing that out there. There's smokescreen, like you said.
It's hard to. Yeah, I like Bean. I think he's good. See what happens.
Yeah, for sure. So thank you everyone for listening. Mike had to take off; he had an engagement, but thank you guys all for listening. Please subscribe, like, review. We'd appreciate everything that you guys all do to continue to support us in this independent venture. Thanks for finding us. Thanks for listening to us. If this is the first time you're doing this, we're not draft experts, but we love talking about the draft. What's nice though, John, no matter what, is that we don't have to worry about the quarterbacks. Like, isn't that a great place to be in? Like, it's like literally almost every position is available for us to draft, except the most important one. Like, I love it.
Yes, it's very nice.
Although I do miss drafting in like the top 10. So you only had to know like 10 prospects. Like that was easy. It was a lot less work, but yeah, we'll see. This is fun. All right, man. This has been fun. Signing off for John.
Go Bills. Love you.
And for me, Nate, go Bills. I love you too. I love you guys all out there. And we'll talk to you guys on Thursday night after the draft.
Kick it off, 12 man, let's hear you scream.
Thank you for listening to the Circling the Wagons podcast. Download and subscribe to us in your favorite podcast service. Email us at ctwpod@gmail.com. That's Charlie Tango Whiskey Pod @gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter at CTWPod. And most importantly, go Bills!
Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills.
Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills, Nate.
Well, listen, the whole show is called Circling the Wagons. Say no more. I love it.